And I realized I did your announcements sooner than you normally do. I'm used to doing that. We'll save those till later. So let us begin by doing a land and social justice acknowledgement. The land that our church sits on was stewarded by the Haudenosaunee people. And so today we pay tribute to them for their stewardship and for this place that we call sacred and holy. We are a social justice loving faith. And in that, we strive to hold up all marginalized people and cultures. We do this by praying with our feet and our votes. And we also strive always to make sure that we are working in allyship with all who need their voice raised. This morning, for our call to be present, I'd like to read to you a short little passage that was written by Chip Roush, a contributor often to UU World. His piece is called Be Here in the Moment. We are about to enter sacred time. We are about to make this time and this place sacred by our presence and intention. Please turn off or silence your phones. And as you do so, I invite you also to turn down the volume on your fears, to remove your masks, not your face masks, he meant masks that shield us from others, and to loosen the armor around our hearts. Don't take my word for it. Do it as slowly as you need to. If you take a little risk with these good people, you may find that they have the same human needs as you do. Breathe. Let go of expectations placed on you by others and those they taught you to place on yourself. Drop the guilt and the shame, not to shirk accountability, but in honest expectation of the possibility of forgiveness. Let go of the thing you said the other day. Let go of the thing you dread next week. Be here in this moment. Breathe and be here. And our opening words come to us this morning from philosopher Blaise Pascal. In difficult times, carry something beautiful in your heart. I also wanted to share something that the UU Church of San Jose put in their monthly newsletter, and it was on the UU theme of nurturing beauty, which is the theme for June. And I just like this as well, so I'm going to add it. Remind us humans that we are more than just passive admirers or recipients of beauty. We have an active, mutual relationship with all that's beautiful, whether the beauty lies in things, experiences, people, places, ideas, or whatever you find beautiful. If nurture means to care and encourage the growth or development of, then when we nurture beauty, we become its partner, drawing it out, helping it to unfurl, much as a gardener's loving attention makes it possible for their plants to thrive. In return, we receive the life-giving energy, encouragement, and sustenance that beauty provides. And so we're going to light our morning chalice. I invite you to find our chalice lighting words. And if we could all read them together while I light our chalice. May the light we now kindle inspire us to use our powers to heal and not to harm, to help and not to hinder, to bless and not to curse, to serve you, Spirit of freedom. And I invite you to find hymn 361, Enter, Rejoice, and Come In. Patty's going to play it through. And then I invite you to rise in body or spirit as you be willing or able. And we will sing together.
They can hear us?
I just muted us.
Enter, rejoice, and come in. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Open your ears to the song. Open your ears to the song. Today will be a joyful day. Enter,
So I'm the only one there. I'm not muted.
open your hearts, everyone.
You do your big head.
Open your hearts, everyone.
Okay.
Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Don't be afraid of some change. Don't be afraid of some change. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Bring it on home. Here we go. Last one. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Rejoice and come in. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Thank you. You may be seated. I love that song. The last part always gets me. I just want to rev it up a little bit. Thank you, Patty, for playing along on that. So it is our tradition as a covenantal community that as we come together, we take time to share with each other the joys, the sorrows, and concerns that we have on our heart and mind. And so at this time, I invite whoever would like to come forward. Oh, I'm actually going to have to light one of our candles. And to light a candle if you so desire, or you may place a stone in our vase for remembrance of anyone who has passed along. And I will place this first candle in from which you can light. And I will put this today for all the fathers, those who are here, those who are gone, and those who act always every day in the place and role of fathers. But please come forward and share if you would like to.
Well, I'm going to share my Father's Day story. It concerns an almost event of patricide on my part. My father's 97. He called me last Saturday morning at 8 o'clock in the morning to tell me his mouth hurt. He had a toothache. So we went through all kinds of machinations trying to figure out how we were going to take care of his mouth because he has not left his house in 3 years. I finally talked to my dentist. My dentist was willing to see him and do x-rays and come up with a plan. We rented a wheelchair van because my dad hasn't been out of the house and we thought we'd need a wheelchair. Well, when I got to the dentist on Wednesday morning, my dad had not only not refused to use the wheelchair after we had it, he walked in, got in the van, and complained that it was so high up it would have been easier to get in and out of a car. Then he walked into the dentist's office. They took him in the back. I got there. They took the x-rays, and as I suspected, he had a tooth root abscess. And my dentist said, you know, you can see how his sinuses are all inflamed. He's having, you know, a lot of pain on this side and everything. And he said, you know, I could take care of this for him today because it looks like an easy extraction. There's no little things on the root. The tooth is loose. I could get it. It'd be one and done. We'd have him sit here for a couple of hours because he's on Eliquis and make sure he doesn't bleed and stuff like that. And he turns to my father and says, what do you think of that? And my father says, no. And I explained everything to him and said, why don't you want to do it? And he said, because it doesn't hurt today. I said, Dad, you're on Tylenol and Tramadol. That's why it doesn't hurt today. I don't care. I don't want a hole in my mouth. So my brother and I almost killed my father at that point. The dentist turned to him and said, okay, it's fine with me. I'm not trying to talk you into anything, but there is one thing you cannot do in the future. And my father says, what's that? And he said, you can't call Teresa at 8 o'clock in the morning and tell her your mouth hurts.
Yeah, kind of a sad occurrence this week. Joe Genko got released from the Niagara Gazette, which is really a setback for the area. I know Joe, and he was actually in attendance here a couple months ago with his wife, Beth, and he's a very fair-minded guy, big on the environment, big on social issues. And, you know, the Gazette just continues year after year, decade after decade, to not do a whole lot for this community, if you ask me, but that's just my opinion. But I hope Joe lands on his feet.
Were there any other joys or sorrows or concerns that anyone wished to share this morning? For all those that have been shared, for those that are held in the hearts and the minds, to all of them we give our best intentions and our best blessing. So be it, amen and a women. So our spiritual practice moment, which comes with our June theme of nurturing beauty, has for this morning our very own, at least we claim her as use Mary Oliver. I don't know that Mary was always would identify in that way, but you have always claimed Mary Oliver. When someone says, well, what is your sacred text that you call holy? Most people will say the poem books of Mary Oliver. But anyway, this poem this morning is called Coming Home, and it seems fitting. Coming Home by Mary Oliver. When we are driving in the dark on the long road to Provincetown, when we are weary, when the buildings and the scrub pines lose their familiar look, I imagine us rising from the speeding car. I imagine us seeing everything from another place. The top of one of the pale dunes, or the deep and nameless fields of the sea. And what we see in a world that cannot cherish us, but which we cherish. And what we see is our life moving like that along the dark edges of everything. Headlights sweeping the blackness, believing in 1,000 fragile and unprovable things, looking out for sorrow, slowing down for happiness, making all the right turns, right down to the thumping barriers to the sea, the swirling waves, the narrow streets, the houses, the past, the future, the doorway that belongs to you and me. And so now at this time, we will take up our morning offertory, which goes to serve the good works of this church. Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me. I love that song. I used to sing it as I don't know if you remember, Max, but I used to sing that as a lullaby to you and your sister when you were little. It's just a fun song. But it also, placed where it is in our order of service, takes us well into what today's sermon is. Today's sermon is about welcome. It's about welcoming things in. It's about some of the words of welcome. Shalom, aloha, namaste, benvenute, welcome. All ways to say welcome. Welcome as a word is a noun, a verb, and an adjective, but it can also be a way of living. Shelley Kruzak, who's an internet blogger, writes of welcome as, and these are her words, smiles, laughter, and math. What do these three things have in common? It is said that all three are universal languages that cross culture, social, and linguistic divides around the world. Despite our differences, a contagious smile, a gift of laughter, and the infamous search for X can remind us of our shared humanity. Now, in the time it took me to read the paragraph above, 7 people around the world were displaced from their homes. In the midst of the worst global displacement crises in history, it is more important than ever to create local, welcoming environments for new neighbors. And we have certainly watched the news, and we have seen the various actions, both man-made and made by nature, that have displaced people from their homes. from their communities, from their sense of welcome that they had enjoyed in the space that they called home. The word welcome is an invitation. It is a greeting with a warm, active connotation of hospitality. To welcome someone is to invite them into a shared space, whether it's a city, organization, social circle, event, or even a home. Showing compassion through welcoming and befriending a new neighbor is arguably another common language that we all can speak if we try. UUs like to say that their churches are welcoming and affirming places. And usually this is related to LGBTQ individuals. But let's expand that. Let us be welcoming to families with small children, those who are challenged mentally, physically, and emotionally, economically insecure, those who carry different ideas and thoughts, anyone who also is trying to find a place that is home. To welcome in a living way is more about us, you and me, than it is about others. When we individually welcome what the universe brings to our door or what we find on our travels, we are definitely nurturing beauty, even in its ugliest forms. Ugly beauty? That doesn't sound quite right. Well, we are a people within our faith where we always hold and both. So even something that one may think is ugly has a beauty in its own existence. And to welcome that knowledge and experience, that is to live in the welcoming mode. Now, some welcomes are not easy. We've talked in the past about the affronts of violence that we have seen and the deaths that have taken place in our community and other communities across our world. And we have welcomed into our conscience, as we have contemplated these actions, how this will affect us, our word, our deed. The welcome is not always a happy greeting, but sometimes it is an acknowledgement of the feelings and lessons and reactions that come from a visitor. To truly live in welcome means to be attuned to all that is present. It means to think about the inherent worth and dignity before discounting an ugly beauty caller. There are 6 ways that are said to make others feel welcome. I took this from an online blog. Don't always sit by the same people. Include others in conversations and activities that you may be planning. Build on common interests. Give sincere compliments. And if there's something unique about a person that you find interesting in them, in a respectful way, let them know and let them enjoy your appreciation of them. David Chapman, Reverend David Chapman, who is also a UUA contributor, wrote this piece called Sanctuary of the Soul. And I just love it. And I want to read it to you this morning because it also speaks to that action of living in welcome. To those of you who are visitors here for the first time, thank you again for being with us. If you are lonely, here you will find warm companionship. Here in this sanctuary of hope, you can find a new seat at the table of life and feast yourself on love and fellowship. And you will not hunger for the touch of a human hand or an embrace of your searching spirit. If you are afraid or you have been abused, if you ache with fatigue, here you will find rest. You will be comforted. Your spirit wounds will be dressed and your courage will be returned to you. You will be led beside the still waters, and your soul will be restored. If you seek to understand, here you will be encouraged in your search. Wonderful pathways will be lit unto you, and wherever your journey takes you, you will know that you can always come home again to this place made sacred by our love for you. This is a sanctuary of the soul. There are no boundaries in this cathedral of hope. The collective wisdom of all mankind and our painful but glorious history are open to you here. Your heart and your mind need never struggle with one another in a Unitarian Universalist congregation. We have no fear of science. We have no fear of knowledge here. If someday you decide to join us, you may feel what I have felt. In the words of author Dorothy Lee Sayers, all my life, I have been wandering in the dark, but now I have found your hearts and am satisfied. And what do all the great words come to in the end but that? I love you, I am at rest with you, and I have come home. I find that interesting. It just speaks so much. And again, he wrote so well the feelings and the attitudes that we express here. We've shared them during our talk back time. We share them in coffee, and we share them often when we make statements about how we want to be in relation with the world and ministry right here on our block. The many, many ways that this congregation has sided in love and welcome in Niagara Falls. And if you think back to all the many, many, many activities, be it political, be it cultural, be it economic, it has made a statement of welcome. Erica Hewitt wrote this: some of us are bringing our best selves to this space, and some of us are bringing our struggling selves, including pieces we might be ashamed of. All of us are welcome here. All of us are loved. Some of us already have open hearts, and some of us aren't quite there yet because our hearts have gotten a little beat up this week and might have forgotten how to trust and to be open. Your heart is welcome here, no matter how bruised. We welcome you among us. All of us are imperfect, but we're here to drop our defenses and trust that what happens in worship is powerful and life-giving. Together, we affirm that this day and our being together can make each of us braver, more compassionate, and wiser than when we woke up this morning. And I guess that's the key, that in coming together in community, in experience the welcome of our gathering, of our service, of our spiritual connection to each other, that can change our morning, if nothing else. We are here, we are together. And as a community, we welcome the all of you and the all of me. And we know that we are loved in a continuing cycle of love and covenant and community that we can only find right now here in our church for us as UUs. But our job is to walk that into our community, the ministry on the block, that time that maybe you spend time with neighbors. And I emphasized this before, that ministry on the block, just talking about welcome. If today you have an opportunity or tomorrow to speak with a neighbor, a friend, or a colleague, talk about the idea of welcome. Whatever space you find yourself in, take a moment to just talk about what does welcome mean for that space. Have the conversation. And I know in next year, I'm going to be emphasizing conversations a lot because in our whole Western New York community, many faith leaders are going to be coming together, going back into communities to emphasize the hard conversations that we need to have on racism and economic apartheid that happens here. So this is how we begin that exercise. We start with things that feel okay to us, that we feel comfortable with, and we talk with other people. And we just listen and talk and take that. And then hopefully, as we move along in those conversations, that welcome living, that action of the word will become something that we bring to our larger space. Because you are welcome here and you are loved And if we can take that message, then we create a more welcoming Niagara Falls and a more welcoming Western New York. I like this chair. The other one, when it gets hot, I stick to it a little bit. But so it is talk back time, which is my favorite part. And this is an opportunity for you because this is your pulpit. This pulpit belongs to the congregation. And so your voice is important. And I'd like to invite you to share any thoughts, ideas, reflections, and challenges. Those are always welcome too, about this theme and topic of welcoming.
Okay. Yeah, if you, without the mic, the folks at home don't hear. So, but, no, I wanted to, just, thank you, for, talk about welcoming, my God, your whole approach is so welcoming and just the vibes just carry throughout the room and, it's a wonderful thing and just wanted to say thank you. So
Thank you. That was really touched my heart today, Christian. And thank you, Max, for picking up my struggling old self. I've been down at Art Park all week and I am really dragging.
Desi wanted to say something.
Okay, I just wanted to say that I think the topic is so relevant.
I'm sorry, Desi.
Today is Juneteenth, and it's a special day for our country, I think. The fact that Juneteenth is now a national holiday, I think is so wonderful. And that I've always felt so welcomed and accepted by your community. I just wanted to say thank you.
I of course agree totally with the whole idea of how much our Unitarian communities want to be welcoming, and um, and I just feel like sometimes in reality it is very difficult for us because sometimes people that are having problems um, can overwhelm certainly a small congregation like ours. And so I think we do try, and yet I think sometimes it just doesn't seem to work out that the group can really harmoniously come together if the needs of some of the people who come through our doors seem to be almost greater than we can meet. And so as much as I embrace welcoming, and I certainly am accepting, I believe, of others, sometimes the reality is very difficult. And that doesn't mean that the message is not welcomed and not and actually it is needed to remind us how important it is to be welcoming. But if we come from different backgrounds, if we come with certain mental health issues, if we come sometimes even just from very different environments and worldviews, it's not just always this harmonious, we're all together. And I struggle with that because I want it to be that way. I want it to be kumbaya. And we are all one. And when it isn't that way, or when I don't see that it's happening that way, it always makes me sad.
I hear you, Kathy. If this last week was any example, we've had to step up security, and it's all, they have to be armed now, and we have to check the bags.
Where's that?
At our apartment. It's just scary not feeling safe anymore. I even wondered if I would even bother this summer, and I'm not sure about next summer at all. Patty LaBelle is coming on Tuesday night, and we've already had volunteers drop out just because of the current situation. I've had people that I had got tickets for, Isabella's folks, they're not coming because they're afraid to go anywhere, especially after the Tops thing. So I get it, Kathy.
Yeah, I still got the mic. I didn't stand up. I almost feel like it's probably better here. Wireless mic works anywhere. But yeah, I agree with Kathy that we're not always well equipped to maybe be as welcoming as we should be. Maybe not as well trained or whatever it takes. But I couldn't help thinking back to a line from 12 Step of years ago, and that was "fake it till you make it." And I think the way things are, there's just so much stress in the society now that I think that's almost the approach we have to take, that the January 6th business playing out on television and all the rest of it, it's scary stuff, and it's very disturbing. And it doesn't leave you in a very welcoming frame of mind. Mostly you want to hole up under under your covers in bed or something, I guess. But I guess all we can do is just fake it till we make it and hope for the best.
If it offers as a bomb kit. While we are Unitarian Universalists, we are not the bomb for everything. And I think that when we acknowledge that it's okay to have healthy boundaries, that we can't be everything to every person, but even within that welcome, if that helps us to direct people to spaces that can be helpful to them. But because we are a covenantal group, it's not about a one. And if a one is disrupting the group, then it's important to look at what that means. It's not to discard the individual, but it is to help and see what will best preserve for the group and still help to keep the person healthy. But maybe sometimes that's not always the space. Maybe there's other spaces. And I think that's where we get tripped up a lot, because we think we have to be everything for everybody and all this stuff. And we just don't have that capacity. And as all of you have mentioned, the items of the last couple months have really affected that, to the point where, not here, but other places, there's security at doors because churches and spaces have become target areas. It's not always the open door that it was for years ago. Spaces are not always open. There's security, just as you mentioned at our park, I went to Shays and the same way, everything, we were wanded, everything's checked. It's not the same. And that happens at lots of other places. So our world is changing, and we can relook at that aspect of welcome. And while I mention it in a broader sense, I think that hearing from everybody today, it's also a good reflection of what does that mean and how do we do that with safety in the greater sense. And that will be something I'm sure that we'll be talking about and looking at and reflecting on while we look at all the other issues within our world. But we definitely want to let people come in, but we also don't want to have a greater disruption. So that becomes a working sort of and both, which is difficult, doable. And we want to make sure that people know that we love them, but we cannot be destroyed by needs that are greater than capacity. And therefore, we want to then redirect or reconnect out. And it's okay to do that. I think that's something we don't always give ourselves, is that opportunity to say, if we can't do it all, it's okay to share it and to direct someone to another space that might be able to help them. And we feel badly, oh, we're supposed to be everything, but we're not. And it's okay to not be that. You can still be welcoming and still be a space that helps people to find where they can better be served. And that's all right. That's part of maybe that allyship and knowledge with our greater community. But we're still living in a space that's being defined, not just by the violence, but things that are going to be coming up. The hearings, Roe versus Wade is going to have a major impact, however that's decided. And hopefully we'll get to talk about that too, because that has a big impact on many areas of what we hold as our principles for how we want to be welcoming in the world. So hopefully we'll get to talk about that in time too. Are there any other comments that anybody wants to make about this idea of welcoming?
Francis had a comment.
Okay.
Go ahead, Francis.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that things have gotten in such a tight place, I guess, in Niagara Falls and throughout the country. I just want to say, I remember, I just didn't realize it, but I remember when I joined the church in '68, my husband and I, we were an interracial couple, and we raised, we brought our interracial children, were born into the church. And there's never and ever a time where we didn't feel welcome. And I'm just realizing that now. It never was an issue. We were just another young family, and I cherish the time that we had here. That's all I want to say.
Thank you, Francis. Other comments or anything anyone else wants to share on the topic? Well, I appreciate all the comments and all the thoughts, because you're sharing with each other ministers to me as well. And for that, I'm very grateful. And also, you've raised some ideas that definitely, as we go into next church year, I want to bring those ideas back, that we can really talk about them and explore them and what that means for us as a congregation and as a faith. So thank you for those provoking ideas. You'll hear them in sermons, I trust you. And so I invite you to find hymn number 289 in your hymnal. Creative love, our thanks we give.
I just wanted to do only the first verse because it kind of fit into your.
Sounds great. So Patty, if you want to play it through for us once so we can get the, and then afterwards, if everyone would just rise in body or spirit as willing and able. Creative love, our thanks we give, that this our world is incomplete, that struggle breeds our will to live, that work awaits our hands and feet. Please be seated. That was perfect. Patty was telling me about, we were working on the music for this week and telling me about this. That was perfect. Thank you for selecting that. That was perfect. And now it's time for announcements. So if anyone has any announcements for the good of the congregation or community at this time, please do share.
Hi, I just wanted to say that this Sunday is the last regular Sunday, and starting next week, we start our summer programs. I think that was it. I think, is it Jim, were you having next Sunday? No? Did you want to speak at did you want to say what you were talking about this Sunday? And if anybody would like to sign up, there's still a sign up sheet in the back.
Well, I'm talking about cryptocurrency and the fact that it takes enormous amounts of electricity to drive these computers to come up with crypto. And it's very timely because the very next day on the 27th, there's a big protest in Geneva, New York. And it's going to be to put a moratorium on crypto so that we stop wasting all this electricity on this. I mean, it's really pretty pathetic. It's well, you'll find out more next week if you come. So we'll go into it now.
Good teaser. I like that. Any other announcements or anything anyone wants to share? So I actually have something to share with you. Some of you know that I was working for GLIS, gay and actually it's growing LGBTQ youth support. But my passion had always been, I really wanted to be working with seniors and looking at issues for seniors. And it had been always my plan to try and create something. Well, lo and behold, the Center for Elder Law and Justice has received a federal grant, and that is exactly what they're going to be doing. And I'm happy to let you know I'm the new legal assistant project coordinator for the Center for Elder Law and Justice. And that is what I'm going to be working on. And it's focused on Niagara County. And the hope is that we will come to learn more about the concerns and issues for elders and do training for service providers, including law enforcement and the legal community, and then be able to do some interventions, especially for the far-reaching areas, like we can get out into Burt, New York, and Gasport, Middleport, Alcott, but also all of our areas here. Towards that end, and I'm just going to leave this in the back, it's a little orange folder. It's part of the survey that we're doing. You'll see on it, let me just tell you about it real quick. It says abuses in later life, individuals being harmed. And you might say, well, I'm not an individual being harmed, so I don't want to fill that out. This is a survey for anybody who's 50 years or older, just to talk about concerns that you may be aware of or ideas. You don't have to be an individual who's being harmed. And if you would like to fill this out, you can do it during coffee hour. You can slip it back in here. I'll stop up to church later in the week. Because one of the areas that we've been trying to reach out to is a lot of the faith communities. And luckily, some of our neighbor friends down at St. James on Rainbow Boulevard, Riverside Presbyterian, are also going to be filling these out. Also, if you're around next Saturday, stop over to St. James on Rainbow Boulevard. There's going to be an interfaith service at which I will be presenting. And it's a variety of different clergy locally who are simply going to be doing an LGBTQ inclusive service, as well as having a family fest on the grounds over at St. James. And I believe that starts at 10 o'clock. I'll send information to make sure it gets out to all of you as well. But those are just some of the good things that are happening in Niagara County that I want to make you aware of. and that you are invited to and welcomed to attend to. Any other announcements or anything? There you go. It's
I
fine.
forgot. Betsy sent me an email. She said that the announcement, she sent out a message about volunteers there's a bike group coming through, and I think they're staying the night here. And she asked for volunteers. She said the email that went out, it's the 23rd, but it's on Thursday, not Wednesday. And her phone number was written wrong on there. So I'll send out another email. But if anybody has any questions, it was wrong day on the email.
You guys remember this, they've been here before, I believe. Peter's usually made dinner, the group stays overnight, and they're on a whole trail that they go through for promotion for their intent. So if you have a chance to help that out, they're a nice group of young people. I think I met years ago when they came through, so. Okay. So our benediction for today comes from writer Og Mandino, and Og writes these words for us. Welcome every morning with a smile. Look on the new day as another special gift from your Creator, another golden opportunity to complete what you were unable to finish yesterday. Be a self-starter. Let your first hour set the theme of success and positive action that is certain to echo throughout your entire day. Today will never happen again. Don't waste it with a false start or no start at all. You were not born to fail. These are the words of Og Mandino. So let us extinguish our chalice. And if we could read together, please, the words in our order of service. We extinguish this chalice, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Max Goldhirsch, would you honor us with some music, please, for our postlude?
So this is a song that I wrote for my dad. It's called Sunset Over Crystal Water.